My name is Rebecca Kiesling, and I am very fortunate to be the Executive Director of NAMI Northern Virginia. You all get to hear my little spiel for a second time, because now we're doing this live, or videotape. We have done monthly meetings at NAMI Northern Virginia for a number of years. We did them long before COVID. We went virtual during COVID. We called them, again, monthly meetings. And the purpose of them was to bring information and education to our network about different topics. We rebranded this year, so Community Wellness Education Events, CWEs we call them, and we wanted to broaden out the topics. Mental wellness is a big thing. You know, it's a broad. Mental wellness can mean so much to so many different people, and I'm excited about the rebranding, because what that allows us to do is really try to complete that circle. People ask me all the time, where is NAMI in the circle of recovery, in that sphere? I like to say we are here and we're here. We're not when somebody's in crisis. We're not therapists, we're not experts. We're experts in ourselves. So the people that you talk to, the people that are leading our support groups, the people that are on our helpline, the people that teach our classes, they're all peers or family members. They're experts in their own lived experience. I myself am a peer and a family member. My father was in and out of mental hospitals, psychiatric hospitals throughout my childhood. I had no idea what was going on, because in Boston, you never talked about this. You never talked about what was behind closed doors. And it wasn't until my 20s, when I needed therapy myself, I learned that my dad was diagnosed with multiple serious mental illnesses. And then my own daughter, that Northern Virginia golden child, elite swimmer, traveled all over the world. She started showing signs of backtracking through everything. Statistically, I should have lost my daughter. Statistically, I should have lost her to suicide, or I should have lost her to drugs. And that's what statistics say. I got my head out of the sand, and I got her the help that she needs. She did the work. She does the work every single day, and she's doing great now. But it shows that even with all the resources, and it shows that even with all the training, and I worked in healthcare at the time, you can miss things. And you use your own background and I had gone through everything with my dad. Why couldn't she? I should have lost her. So it's one of the reasons that I'm here. I consider this my passion. It's not just a job for me, but I'm also a lifelong learner. And that's why I'm super excited about this. I'm excited we're taping it, because I can't stay. I got to briefly talk with Emmalyne just a little while ago, and I was learning. And I love that. I hope you all learn a lot from her as well. She has a great story, and I know you're gonna share that, right? Great. So I'm not going to take that thunder. This is a really interesting topic. I want you to remember, as she goes through her information, like myself, she's an expert in this. She's not a therapist. So the information she gives, if you need more, call our helpline or talk to our helpline. We can provide you with other services. She also has some at the end of her slides. We can provide you other information. But this is really important. And if you know somebody that needs other help, talk to Emmalyne.
All right. Well, thank you. How's everybody doing today?
How you doing?
I want to get intimate since it's just a few of us, but let's talk back and forth. So, as you can see, she just shared that I own a cleaning company. So, this is 100% just all the transactions that we have seen, and just all the different homes that we've been across, and just interacting with it, just some of my observations, and then also just some information as well, that you can pull from the internet as well. So I'm very passionate about leading with love. So can y'all, am I in your way? Can you see well? Okay. So just a little bit about myself. So as you can hear from my accent, I'm a Southern girl. So I like to tell everybody that ahead of time because people are always like Southern Belle Cleaners, and it was real funny because I actually didn't realize that until I started interacting with people from other countries that Southern Belle is kind of an American kind of term. So I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't, but I am what I am. So I am a Southern Belle, and so I am from Nashville, Tennessee. And I had the Nissan Rogue up there because for 8 years of my life, I was a process engineer. We built the Nissan Maxima, Ultima, Rogue, Pathfinder, and then Infiniti QX60. So this is a complete pivot for me. So I am a mechanical engineer by trade, and then the next picture is COVID cleaning. So like a lot of people during COVID, I don't know if you all know, but businesses were booming during COVID. Some of you all heard about how a lot of people were starting businesses during COVID. So I saw a lot of people doing the COVID cleaning, and so my cousin was like, "Hey, we should get some of this COVID money." And so I said,
a lot of people collect COVID money.
Yeah. So I was like, let's get some of this COVID money, and so that's kind of how I even started. It was Elite Cleaners, and so that's kind of how we even started. So that's just a little bit about me, but to bring it to today. So, like I said, I had started Elite Cleaners. I was focused on doing COVID cleanings, office buildings, and then we did a little bit of property turnover clean. So when an apartment complex is changing, somebody's leaving, we'll come in, and we were going in and doing a move in, move out clean. So one day we had a HOA contact us and was like, hey, we have someone who needs, she's about to be evicted, can you go and help her? And so I was like, hey, what's a cleaning? And so we went in there, and I was probably the most overwhelmed I've ever been in my whole life. And so she had a serious infestation of roaches. You could not walk around. She literally had cat litter where she had not been changing the cat litter, so she would just buy a new box and then just push the other box. So it was very overwhelming for me. And so I was, kind of like, hey, we might need to, this might not be in our scope of work. But she asked me, she stopped me, and she said, hey, I want to talk to you. She was telling me, let's talk for a little while. And so as we talked, I learned that she's never been married. I've never been married. She has no children. I have no children. She moved here from Florida by herself. And then I moved here from Nashville by myself. I moved here and I only knew 3 people. And so I really was sitting there looking at her, and I was like, hey, this could really be my journey. I don't have a support system up here. And and one key thing with her, she was a nurse, and during COVID, a lot of nurses were having challenges as far as wanting to work, and and she really tied a lot of her identity to being a nurse, and as did I. A lot of my identity was tied to being an engineer. So when I would talk to my family, I was always, oh, she's an engineer, and so a lot of it just really spoke to me. And so from her, I just had to help her. And so she legit changed the whole trajectory of my entire life. And so we went in there, we took her home from the first picture. It took us a couple of sessions. We had to take some breaks. I had to, kind of process what was going on as well. And here we go. We ended up with a beautiful, clean home again. They were able to come in, and actually her sink hadn't been working in 3 months. She was able to get her sink service. She was able to get the infestation treated. So it really just changed my entire life. So that's kind of how I got here. And as you can see, we're at 350 homes transformed. Wow. So, we're getting it. So, I mean, that is our true passion. So, just as she said earlier, I am not, I am an engineer by trade, but this is something this is the first time in my life that my steps have been ordered. And so I'm truly, truly passionate about it. So everything I'm saying is just things that we've observed. So, one key thing that I wanna just get out the way, because I hear this all the time, like when I'm sitting here and I say, oh, we have a extreme decluttering business, somebody comes up to me and they're like, oh, my grandmother's a hoarder. And so one thing that I really like for people to really think about, like in-depthly, is your grandmother really a hoarder, or has she been in the same home for 30 years? Has she had mobility issues where she can't clean the way that she used to? Does she still, when I graduated from college, I still have my books that I didn't sell. I still have all these different things in my mother's garage. And I graduated 15 years ago. So, people are storing other people's items. People come and go and somebody might stay with your grandmother for a year and they might go. She's been in the home for 30 years. And then sometimes it's just poor housekeeping. So we're quick to label people. And that's one thing that I really like to try to, I'm not mean about it, but when people come up to me and they're just throwing that term out there, I really like for people to just think about it. And so it's really a vast difference between cluttered homes and just hoarding. So when we go into homes and we go in there and we're getting it, and they have no problem at all with us cleaning, that's just a cluttered home. It's just a senior who probably, and that's kind of, you'll hear me talk about seniors a lot. But so I want us to just take a second and just think about, how often do you purge your own items?
Once a year.
Once a year? Okay, how about you?
Every 6 months.
Every 6 months. What, you have is it like a particular date that you do it by?
My mom has hoarding disorder, and it's a source of anxiety for me, so it's a trauma reaction. I can't deal with clutter.
So and for myself, I can't function in a lot of, so when I went into that home, that was the reason why I was very, very, very overwhelmed, because I grew up in a home where we couldn't even have a dish in the sink when we went to sleep. So I'm one of those people when my sorority sisters came over to my home one time, and somehow we were in the bedroom and we were eating popcorn, and a piece of popcorn fell on the floor, and she threw it in the trash can. I said, no, that's bedroom trash can. And she was like, you have different, and I mean, it's like some people just operate differently, and so I'm kind of like, I can get into a whole little. So how often do you purge?
I don't have a schedule, and I'm now I'm in the process of purging.
Yeah.
Of the decluttering, that's why I'm here.
Well, it's whenever my mom's playing too.
Huh?
My mom, she'll identify different, I have a lot of clothes, and I still have a lot of clothes hanging in my closet, but either they're too big, and then either, so I'm retired, so I have a lot of executive clothing.
Yep.
Which I don't need anymore, and so it's sitting there collecting dust.
Yep.
So I need to get rid of it.
Yep.
But I haven't, I know, you never know. But I need it needs to go.
Yeah, and so that's the reason why, and so the reason why I asked, how often do you purge and do you have habits in your home, is because a lot of times we're passing judgment on people, and our homes are not, it's like, what's that saying, can't throw stones in a glass house, so I really realized that a lot of people are sitting here, and they have things going on in their own home that they can identify. So, I mean, even for myself, I sit here and, I'm helping all of these different people, and the funniest thing happened to me the other day, so I make this really short, So during COVID, you know how they had the supply chain issues, and so a lot of people were initially, so like this oatmeal that I ate, they stopped making it. So for 6 months, I went on this mission trying these different oatmeals, and so I put this vanilla protein, huge, you know, I pour it into the oatmeal. Well, 6 months, I went through all these different oatmeals, never found another oatmeal. I said, all right, forget it, all right, you know, I'm just not gonna eat oatmeal, I'm just gonna find something else. So this was 2020. So, every morning I go into the kitchen, I, you know, make breakfast and everything. And one day I looked and I saw this huge vanilla protein container on my kitchen counter that I haven't used since 2020. So, you know, that's the reason why, like, it was one of those, like, kind of moments for myself, like, you know, I'm going around like, oh, you need to move this, you need to move that, you need to do this, and I'm sitting here with something that I have legit not used since 2020. So that's one thing that I just really like for, you know, people to be mindful of, is that we really have conditions in our own home before we can just sit here. So just a couple of things that we're gonna talk about today is like, what is hoarding? Because we know it's a difference between clutter and hoarding. Who does it affect and effects of hoarding? And then my favorite topic is just approaches to make sure that when you're dealing with loved ones. So just as she said earlier, hoarding is actually you know, actual mental condition now. So it's not you know, just somebody just, you know, throwing around a term. This is something now, we've actually been approached by insurance companies to actually service people and to be covered underneath their insurance. So, I mean, this is really getting, you know, this is just outside of the, you know, the TV show where people are just watching other people's homes, but this is like a serious mental health condition, and it goes under the umbrella of OCD. And so, one thing that I really like to make sure that when people, and I really don't post that one picture, I have permission from her, and that's like the picture that I use all the time. Because I really don't like to post. A lot of people tell me all the time, like, oh, you should, you know, post your videos, but it's I just feel weird about profiting off of people's sensitive, you know, situations and everything. But the one thing that I always, whenever I show that picture, one thing I always like to make sure people understand, you don't know what the straw that might break your camel's back. So, you know, people are quick, and like I've sent pictures to my mom before, and she's just like, how does that happen? You know, she's just judging. She's like, it's no way, you know. And so, you know, I tell her, I was like, you don't know what would have you not getting out the bed, you know. And so that was our very first client, she was a perfect example of that. So her neighbors were coming up to us and was like, her house was not like this 6 months ago. So she lost her mother, then she lost her father, like I think like within like a short time frame, and then her cat that had been with her for like 15 years passed. And when I was going through the home, all the calendars were on October, and we were in February.
Yep.
And so that's when I really realized, so that's why I have, you know, this little bubble of like divorce, you know, loss of a loved one, loss of a pet, job loss, financial troubles, because you don't know. Like, you don't know what could happen in your life where you legit just do not want to get out the bed. And so that's another reason why, like, so traumatic events, you know, can really, even though it is a mental health concern, you can kind of manage it. I mean, and if we really think about a lot of things that are going on in our own lives, you can sit here and you can mask things, but then once you have like that straw, it can really just push you down. It can really just have you. So that's one thing that I like to always tell people. So just a little history about this, and this is all stuff that you can get on the internet. But so they actually say that it starts as a teenager, but you have like a parent that kind of like helps you manage it. So like you might have it, and your mom's coming in the bedroom and she's just forcing you to throw things
There you
away.
go. That's my mom.
Yep. And then you might have, you might go and get married, and your spouse is throwing things away. But when that spouse dies, when you get a divorce, or if you never get married, so out of all of our clients, probably 95% are single. So it's very rare for us to see actual. We have a couple right now that are in a serious paper hoarding situation, and it's very rare for us to see, because usually it really feels like one person will kind of like force the other person to throw things away. So this is like very unique to see, you know, two people who are like 100% on board with the situation. But so then they also say that it really comes out more as you get older, and so one of our major focuses is on seniors. So just a little bit, like I said about myself, so how we even started leaning into this.
I just had a quick question. Have you seen, you said most of them are single, have you seen some of them where their spouse left because of the issue?
So I'll be 100% honest, probably 90% of ours have never been married. Yeah. So that's why I have this slide right here saying what our mission is.
That's an interesting
So
statistic.
we service anybody, you know, I mean, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, anybody, but our mission is to help solo agers, because we really feel like those are kind of the people that we see are kind of unseen and the most forgotten. And so you see from this slide, you know, 12% of the population is over 50, and you know, solo agents can look like so many different things to different people, because you know, people are quick to say, oh, it's a person who has never been here married and no children, but I mean, we see a lot of estrangement, you know, so I mean, you might sit here and raise a child for 18 years, and that child and you have some kind of falling out, and we've had, you know, we've gone through homes and we see, you know, pictures with, you know, you can see that it's a mother and a father, I mean, a child and a mother, and, you know, she'll look at the picture and she'll, you know, start talking about how they haven't spoken 30 years. So, solo agers can be so many different things, but for us, kind of like what you're saying, I don't, because I talk to almost all of our clients, very few of them I don't interact with, and very few of them are divorced. And if it is a divorce, I haven't ever got to the point where they told me that, but a lot of ours have just never been married. And honestly, you
Do they
know,
have kids?
huh?
Do they have kids?
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. Some of them do have children, and it's estrangement. It's one of the most unique ones that we had, and that's the reason why I tell people all the time, if you have family members, just don't go into the living room. So we had one client where the guy had a stroke. He I don't know the reason why he was doing this, but so he stayed in the home and literally kind of just scooted around the apartment for maybe, they don't know when he had the stroke, and he doesn't know either. But they said that they know that he hadn't left the apartment in 2 weeks, the neighbor across the hallway. And so he had like streaks from where he had, you know, used the bathroom, he had blood, it was a lot going on. And he would scoot to the front door where he would get pizza deliveries, and then he would come back. So he was legit scooting around. The neighbor realized something was going on. The neighbor called the ambulance picked him up, and when they picked him up, his whole back had been eaten from bed bugs. A lot of seniors deal with bed bugs. But the reason why it was a very unique situation, so the daughter literally cried to us because the daughter lives in another state, and so she would come and she would pick him up, and he always came outside. So she had no clue what the inside of the house was. So that's why I said we have people who were, he's technically not a solo agent because he does have children, but he said that she told us when their parents got divorced, the mother took them where she was from, and she would just come and maybe see him in the summertime. So it was I think she might come every other Thanksgiving. So he had children, but it was like not even an estrangement, but it's just like sometimes your children just aren't in the area and you might not have that relationship. But yeah, I haven't seen the ones where the loved one left because the other person was not cleaning, because a lot of ours, like I said, and I think, like I tell everybody, that if her story had just been like one sentence different, I don't even think that we probably would have just did that one home and never looked back. But with her story, just really just, being like, this could be my walk, we really took it to a whole nother level. And so she wrote us a letter of recommendation. She got us on a vendor list. So I didn't even know this was a whole thing. Like, I didn't even know, like, companies specialize in this. Like, I've seen hoarders, but we didn't know that this was a whole, and so that's why I said it changed our whole lives. But so yeah, so our whole mission is, really to help those who do not have those direct connections in the area, or and sometimes people talk about solo agers, and what's really interesting is that we've seen some nephews that take better care of their uncle than a child. So it's very fluid. The whole term solo agers is very fluid. But and so this is just like a couple of effects that people really just don't think about when they are sitting here saying, oh, I have a family member that's, infestation. So anybody in here a business owner? Okay. So you know how, like, in business, they're always telling you, you gotta have your differentiator. You gotta have that thing that makes you different. So the thing that we leaned into in our main thing that makes us different is that we were finding that a senior would have an infestation, bed bugs, roaches, mice, etc., and they would contact the extermination company. Extermination company would come out and they would say, we can't even get in here, we can't do anything, like, you need to call a cleaning company. They call the cleaning company would say, well, you have an infestation, so we can't come in there until you have the, infestation clean. We're not gonna go in there if it's a live infestation. And so then that's kind of how we fit in. So we throw on the suits, as you can see right here, and we'll throw on the suits, and we'll go into a home that has bed bugs, mice, whatever they have. Actually, one of them has actually had bats. Yeah, so we'll go in there and we'll get it we know how to stage it, we know how to prep it, so then the extermination company can come in and start doing their job. And so that's kind of like one of the key things that really happens a lot with hoarding, and that's when I really started realizing that it really is a mental health concern. So you see people who are 100% probably, like, when they walk out their homes, you wouldn't even know, that what all is going on in their home. We had this woman, she was a nurse. You presented very well, and then when we went in the home, she had lamps, and she had food in the lamps. And I was like, what is going on? Like, even like the light fixtures, she had food in the light fixtures. And she was putting the food up top because she thought the mice wouldn't be able to get to it. Wow. And so that's when I really started realizing, like, this isn't just, a couple of items on the floor. This is something that's a lot deeper. So that's the reason why we like to do our part as far as, like, helping the actual physical situation, while most of our clients are getting the actual mental help as well. But, you know, those are the kind of things that we see a lot. Like, you know, she was coming up and she was trying to find a countermeasure for the mice. She wanted the cereal, you know, and she had already put too much food in the refrigerator, so she kept a lot of food in the refrigerator so the mice couldn't get to it. But she would stage, it was food in every single light fixture. And that's when I was like, this is different. We've had people who, usually when they have bed bugs, you can kind of tell, because when they're standing, they're like, kind of like moving, because even when the bugs are not on them, sometimes like the bites still kind of itch, so you'll see them kind of moving. And so we were talking to a young lady, and I was like, hey, you know, I was like, do you not have the bug bites? Because she was sitting there, no problem at all. So I said, do you not have, you know, are you not getting bit? Because I mean, I saw the infestation, like I saw the bed bug, so I know how serious the condition was. And she was telling me how she wears like a wool knit cap, a turtleneck, knit flannels, these real thick socks. So when she would go to sleep, the bugs can get through the clothes.
Wow.
So that's why I said that it's really a big difference between a cluttered home and somebody who is actually, and sometimes it's just depression. Sometimes it's not even really hoarding. Sometimes, you know, we'll come in there and we'll start, you know, bagging things up, and they'll start bagging things up with us. But then we do have those hoarding situations where you can see the anxiety, you know, in their eyes of, you know, it was a blanket that had holes in it, and we were ready to, you know, let go of it. And she was like, I got this blanket when I was 8 years old when we went to Canada. And you can't talk them out of it. You can't talk about what's the functionality of it. How many are we gonna keep? You can't. So, you know, we see that it is a huge difference. Fire hazards, mental burdens, and then really, honestly, the biggest thing for us is the social burdens. So it's a huge, horrible cycle, and that's the reason why when I get into the slide about finding good approaches, the social burden that goes with this is unbelievable. And so it's like a real circle. So they're living in this cluttered home that they're embarrassed about. Then they have a family member that's being rude or whatever, and so then now they're further shutting down, now they're further isolated, now they're letting less people in, and so it just is like this real horrible cycle. And so they, a lot of them don't have relationships. So, you know, when you say that they get, are they divorced, you know, they might not even make it to the stage of marriage. You know, a lot of the ones, I mean, it's very rare that I hear them say girlfriend, boyfriend, you know, even a lot of them, you know, I don't see a lot of them are even in relationships at all.
Do you have situations where a family member wants you to help, but the person says absolutely not?
Yes.
And then you only do it if you have permission from the person?
So, and that one is really interesting because that happens a lot. So we'll have, and so a lot of our business is from social services organizations. So they've already paid us. So it can be very, the one that I'm thinking in my head, like she cussed us out. I mean, she called us. Yeah. She called me a B. It was very interesting, and she was just like, get out. But what we really have to be mindful of is that a lot of people work really hard. So sometimes it's not even hoarding. It's like they come from poor backgrounds, and like she bought all of these tennis shoes, and she did not have a lot of money. So even if that tennis shoe was 10 years old, she remembered how much she paid for that tennis shoe. it was no way she was letting go of that tennis shoe. So we had a whole closet of that condition. And so it got into a real situation. Her daughter and her got into a situation. The daughter actually left. The social worker came in. It was a lot that was going on. But so for us, we are in a bad situation a lot of times because we're being paid by a third party. So sometimes it is kind of forced on the people. And then also another thing that's kind of unique about us is that we're also being brought in when people are facing eviction. So we've had to have those tough conversations. Just the other day, we were working with a gentleman that had a lot of pride. He was a lawyer. He went to law school with a president, and you know, had a lot of you know, you could tell when he was talking, like, you know, when he leaves that house, you know, he had a lot of, so it was a very emotional time just for us to even be in his space. And he really wanted to slow down the process. And I had to keep reiterating the due date, you know, and I had to, so sometimes you do deal with the people are hesitant, and sometimes, you know, and then every jurisdiction is different. So we have one organization that we work with where if the person says no, we're packing up and we're gone. We have some where if they're living, like especially in Virginia, Virginia cares a whole lot more. It feels like, so Virginia, it feels like to me they're more like, no, we don't want you to be in this situation. Whereas in some other areas, it's like, hey, as long as this is staying in your apartment, if you don't want the service, we're gone, you know? So it kind of goes case by case, but we do see where a loved one is forcing almost the person to get it, and the person is resistant. And so that's why I talk about approaches too. And so these are just a couple of benefits, just even being able to entertain again. I mean, I don't know how many times we've, you know, after they've sat here and they've, you know, been like, get out, this, and then once they're back in their bathroom, back at their kitchen table, they're like, oh, I can invite somebody over. And it's like, that's worth, you know, the money right there. That's the reason why I was like, okay, this is what I really. So now let's just talk about approaches with loved ones. So, I mean, a lot of people actually have people who, you know, are in hoarding situations, and it's different ways that you can do it. So like, you know, we've seen people where they do intervention style, where they like the one that I went to today, it was a sister and her son were telling her brother, that he's getting this service. So it was like, and then I'm there, plus a social worker, so it kind of almost felt like 5 against 1, you know? Then you have the ones where you were talking about, like, do you ever have it where they're forced? So, like, you know, we'll have it where, we had a client the other day where the nephew is the caregiver, the nephew left, we were listening to the client, to the client. He came in, it wasn't to his, he said, this is not what this is not what I'm requesting. We're getting rid of more. And so then it escalated. So, cause we were listening to her and we were fine with going at her amount. And then he came in and he's the caregiver. And so it was one of those forced situations. And so now we were having to like bag up even more items. And so it just put more stress on her. You can see it in her face. And so it really does make, you know, and then some people, they start by introducing them to a professional. And so that's my favorite approach, is just, you know, starting and think about just ways that you like to be approached. You know, I mean, with anything that's going on in your life, I mean, how do you like to be approached about something? So like anytime anything is going on with my family, so my family, I come from like a large family, they're crazy, they're loud, we all I mean, like, we're all talking all over each other. And so when I had a boyfriend that some people didn't agree with, it was discussed at a kitchen table with 25 people in the room. So I realized that's not a good approach for me. But what is a good approach for me is that when me and a person that I've already built a bond with, you know, introduced me to, hey, this is somebody who can talk to you about what's going on. And so that's the reason why, like, I just, you know, I always like try to tell people, like, how would you want to be approached? You know, would you want somebody to come up to you and just like start, you know, telling you what you need to do? And now granted, me and my mother have a very unique, you know, relationship. So like, sometimes I feel like I'm have to be firm with my mom, like on things, but you know, so I moved here right before the pandemic. During the pandemic, my mom started getting, what is it called? She did online orders, and then she would pop the trunk, and then they would put the groceries in the trunk. So I come home, and she's got a whole 3 contractor bags of our like y'all call them giants, our grocery store is called Kroger's in Tennessee. And so she had all of these Kroger bags just in this bag. And I was like, what is going on? Like, she was like, well, usually I go into the store and you know how they have the thing where you can return your plastic bags. Well, she was never going into the store. She built up this thing where she was like, I can't throw them away. And so now she's like collected them, you know, from all of these things. So, you know, I said, hey, I'm taking these to the dump. I don't care about no recycling or nothing. You know, I was like, this is getting out of the house. So, you know, I will say that, you know, sometimes dynamics, you know, can be interesting and sometimes, but I mean, there's no way that I would force anything on my mom. I mean, it was, even if with that, you know, and me telling her like, hey, I don't care about some recycling. She was like, yeah, you're right. Cause if I sit here, I was like, yeah, you know, this does not create bad habits, you know? But so, some things that like I really, when we're like interacting with people, cause what we do is we go to a consultation first, and then we'll come in and we'll do the surface. So we kind of see the people multiple times. So one thing that I see that really works is when they're listening to the client, you know. So like that nephew was not listening to her. She had some valid points. He felt like a lot of the items were half filled. A lot of the items were still filled. So where he was looking at the dresser and it looked like it was a lot of items there, you know, I tried to pick up a couple of items and show him like, these aren't just empty bottles, you know, this is her face care. Maybe we can have a conversation about what is the, you know, how often were we using? Do we need to stop buying more? But for us to just start going and just start throwing away bottles, she's gonna have to rebuy them. So what sense does that make for you to do a totalitarian, you know, dictator off with the head, remove all of these items just for her to have to rebuy them the next day? So those are the kind of things, like I tell people, you know, try to listen, you know, try to like really sit down and like listen to the person, no judgment. That's what we always sit here and we say, like, you know, we try to lead with no judgment, respect their boundaries. If they sit here and we were in her home, she was facing eviction, and she had this thing with newspapers, and like it was newspapers. I mean, I picked up one of the newspapers. I was like, when did Obama? I was like, when did Obama become president? I was like, 2000. And I mean, she had a lot of magazines in there. So I had to talk to her, and because she wants to look at each one, and I said, hey, we need to come up with a time frame. At what point can we throw away these? She said all newspapers before 2010 you could throw away. Granted, we in 2021, so that's a lot of years of, you know, newspapers that's still saying. But if that was her agreement, All right, that's her agreement. So we were putting newspapers in storage units. I mean, it was very interesting. You know, we were legit putting newspapers in storage units, but it was in that time frame that I had agreed. But, you know, so if they set boundaries, you know, that's not for us to sit here. You know, I was happy she set the boundary because, you know, she could have sat here and said no newspapers leaving at all. Yeah. And so, go at their pace. So, you know, a lot of people, they, you know, they can't really take a lot of times over 4 hours. So like we wanna come in and we wanna do guns blazing, we wanna just hit it one time because for us efficiency wise, as far as money, it's better for us to go one time, spend, you know, 6-7 hours there, get it out and then leave. But sometimes, like I said, so the guy who was the lawyer, you know, he wanted to process the paperwork because he was concerned about identity theft. So it was a lot of things that were going on that we had to just pivot. We had to let the social workers know that this wasn't going to be, you know, as easy as we thought it was going to be because this is his process. And so I let him know, I said, hey, this is your process. You're taking ownership in this process. But at the end of the day, I told him very firmly, I said, we have 100% inspection rate. If they come through us, they pass inspection. And I said, you will not be the first that's not gonna pass inspection. So if I gotta drag you across this finish line, you're going to get dragged. But I said, but at the same time, I said, I recognize that you need to go at your pace. But I said, we need to start doing milestones. So instead of me actually going over there, we had to do Zooms. So, you know, I mean, as long as they're willing to compromise and understand, like, you know, we can go at your pace, but if we have a deadline, then hey, we just need to be mindful, whatever we have to do. But I still recognize that he had, you know, a lot of things that he needed to process, and so we were still willing to go at his pace. And then supportive, but not enabler. So like that's kind of like with him. So we were 100% supportive of what was going on with him, but we were not going to just sit here and let him just, you know, think that what he had done was enough. You know, so I had to keep reiterating, like, this is not going to pass inspection. This is not going to pass inspection. You know, so, you know, I had to sit here and we had to be supportive, but I could not just sit here and just let him think, okay, these activities. And then these are just a couple of treatments, you know, just going to a therapist and going to a therapist. But one thing that I really want to talk about, and this is just on my heart all the time, and it kind of really doesn't fit with this group, but so I'm kind of talking to two people right now, but so but one of my biggest passions is really trying to remove the negative stigma in the Black community about hoarding and cluttered homes, because when we're in a lot of our own homes, it's very negative and very dismissive. And so that's the reason why we're very passionate about talking about this in front of people, because I've had to tell family members that you sitting here saying, oh, he's just nasty, oh, he's just this, he's just that. I was like, you think he's gonna open this door again? You know, so we really have to be, and I think it's just because our culture doesn't understand the mental health components of it. Whereas we'll go into a home of a white counterpart and they're like, hey, let me tell you something. She's dealing with this, she's dealing with that, she's going through this, she's going through that, she's in therapy now. And so that's the one thing that, like, you know, if y'all ever interact with people and they're calling people's houses nasty, you know, I just really try to, you know, politely cut it off, because one of our first clients, his niece opened up the door for us, fussing and fighting, making a huge deal about how the apartment smelled, and it did. I mean, it was legit. When we got off the elevator, I didn't even know how usually you look at the sign to see what units is this way and what unit. I didn't even have to look. we knew when we got off that elevator to go
That
to the
way,
left
yeah.
because the smell was just that strong. And so we
I
went
hate
there.
to live at night.
Huh?
Yeah, I hate to live next to him.
Well, and so that's the reason why we were there, you know, because his, you know, the people around him were, you know, reporting it. And so she's fussing, she's just going off, you know, all this other kind of stuff. So, we go in there, you know, it's really not a bad apartment, you know, and so we go in there, we clean, and before we leave, because if we're not instructed to like clean the refrigerator, we're not cleaning the refrigerator. So before we left, the refrigerator was kind of cracked like that. So I like pushed the refrigerator just to close it. Like, you know, I'm thinking, okay, I'm just gonna close the refrigerator and then I'm walking out. Well, when I closed it, it pushed back, cause it, I guess, moved some stuff. And so then it swung open and all of this food, so that was what the smell was.
Oh.
So he had, yeah, I mean, it was, like, I've never seen maggots, like he had maggots in the.
Wow.
So anyways, that's neither here nor there, but, so we ended up getting permission to throw everything out, and, so we threw everything out. We had to have thrown like $500 worth of food. I mean, it was like chicken, I mean, he had milk, he had a lot of food, you know, he had takeout, he had a lot of food in there, especially like in the freezer. So, we took out, the food. Well, when we were cleaning, he had like some red Solo cups, like 3 red Solo cups, and they had maybe that much alcohol in them. Maybe that, it wasn't even half a cup. He comes back in there, we thinking he's gonna be mad, cause we just threw $500 worth of groceries away. Didn't even bat an eye. Went to that cup, and he said, "Where my alcohol at?"
Wow.
So, you know, that's when we realized, like,
Wow.
the niece is focusing on this negative when your uncle might be having a alcohol problem. So that's the reason why, especially, you know, and I mean, and like I said, it's not just us, but I really am passionate about, you know, just bringing more awareness in our community, because I feel like a lot of times we can be very, very, very dismissive. But, you know, that's just one example of, you know, if you're being negative and you're being dismissive, you might not be able to get him the help that he actually needs, because his apartment was not any messier than probably any of ours. But that smell was coming from the refrigerator, and nobody knew. They thought it was like the clothes. They were like, yeah, you know, move the clothes. And they couldn't figure out what it was, but it was the refrigerator, because he had this food decaying in the refrigerator. So anyway, so the whole point of my chat today is just, you know, if you're interacting with a family member, a loved one, or, you know, even just a neighbor that you're seeing some odd behavior, you know, just lead with love. Well, people respond so much better when they feel like you genuinely care, as opposed to you're there to judge. And I mean, like, we see that so often where, you know, we'll come into a home and they're like, close the door, close the door, close the door. The neighbor this, the neighbor that, you know, and it's like, yeah, I get it. You don't want, you know, to be across from that, but at the same time, you don't know what's going on with that person. And so we really try to tell people a lot, like, you know, just try not to make the situation more isolated on the person. So this is just a couple of ways to connect with us, and that's us suited and booted, and so that's a picture of us in our hazmat suits, and so we always, you know, that's the reason why we don't care about going into, you know, any home. Like, you know, we've been into homes where people have passed away in the homes, or, you know, have had drug use in the homes, or, you know, and so I'm very, very, very fortunate to have a team that, you know, before, you know, I can't even get the pictures. I can't even take pictures, and they're already, you know, cleaning, and they're moving me out the way. And so, one thing that I learned, a lot of our cleaners are from Honduras, and so they really look down when they go into seniors' homes and like how they feel like we don't take as good care of our seniors like they do.
Yeah.
And so they're you know, like all of them have a grandmother that's living in the home, and so they're seeing the, you know, the condition that they're in. And so, you know, I try to tell them like, hey, you know, that's nice if you have a family member, but you know, what if you don't, you know? So I was like, you know, a lot of our culture, especially now, a lot of less women are getting, you know, rushing to get pregnant. And so, you know, I was like, that culture might be more encouraging of the whole cycle of life, whereas a lot of us, you know, in America, you know, a lot of people come to DC for good government jobs, and they get up here, they're successful, they might not find a mate. And so, you know, I was like, you know, that's a lot of our clients is, you know, people who moved here from other areas before jobs here. But so they're 100% on board, like they're knocking me over, you know, trying, because they feel like we're not taking good enough care of them. And so they're like, mama, no, you know, like they're like, and so I'm very, very fortunate that I don't have a team that, you know, like I've even had more responses than them. Like, I mean, I've had like you know, one time a mouse was, like, usually I'm used to mice on the floor, and the mouse came out. I was at the kitchen counter, and the mouse came out like at this level, and so I was like, I mean, like, I kind of like got loose in the legs for a second, because it was just, you know, shocked me off guard. But like they, you know, I have a great team. They don't even bat an eye at, you know, at anything. And so they just throw on the suits and get ready. And so.
Yes.
Mhm.
How did you, like, going from being an engineer, like, to going into this business, like, how did you know, like,
So-
how to do this?
So the interesting thing for me is that even when I was an engineer, I created a program when I was at Nissan. So I'm very fortunate. I went to college. My parents went to college. My grandparents went to college. My grandfather was the first, you know, black man to have a contractor's license. Like, very, very, very fortunate. So when I went to Nissan, I was working with a lot of people where, like, they might have gone to college, they got pregnant, and so then they had to come and get a job on the line. Or I didn't have money to go to college, so I came and worked on the line. So it was, it just really just like, kind of like, I was just like, man, I'm really fortunate. So when I was in Nissan, I started these programs for professional development. So I started with computer classes, then I did soft skills training. So we did public speaking, we did mentor, like we would match people up, we did interview training, we did resume training. So I realized that even though I was an engineer, I always try to find some kind of passion, some kind of purpose in what I'm doing. So fast forward to the cleaning, like I said, I was fine just making, you know, money doing the commercial cleaning. And then when I found this, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And so and like I said, ever since we've been doing this, it's legit, my steps have been ordered. So everything kind of like flows. So it's not, I felt before like I was trying to force things, like post-construction cleaning, very difficult for us to coordinate, for me to bid, for me to, you know, secure, for me to win the bids. It's just, you know, but when we're leaning into this, you know, the relationships I have with my social workers, you know, our relationships when we go into our client's home, you know, it just, it was natural. So this is the first time that, you know, I didn't apply for a job. Like, I'm not, you know, raising my hand. This is all just 100% like something that kind of just flowed for us. And so,
Do you get paid by insurance companies?
So no, so the insurance thing is somebody approached us, so we had it, it's like multiple steps to become a provider. So we're
Okay.
now the insurance provider. We get paid by social service department.
Okay.
So like, say, like if this organization found somebody who needed their service, we would go out there, we would give them a quote, and then they would, so we don't actually ever get paid by the actual. And so that was one of the things that was like a lesson learned. So, in business, it is difficult, right? So, I sat here and I spent all this money on Google ads, spent $2,000 on Google ads, $2,000 on this, $2,000 on that. And, I realized.
Employers are gonna be looking for that, right?
Huh?
Employers are gonna necessarily. be
They're
looking.
not, and that's what I had to learn. So what I realized is that when I realized like the key people that we wanna service are not looking for our service, so we just started going and letting people know, you know, what our services are. And so, you know, we're being recognized. So like next month, so the Commission of Asian for the City of Alexandria, they give out these awards every year. And so we actually are winning, Organization of Asian in Excellence, organization, due to our social workers, like nominating us, and we won. So, you know, when I feel like it's one of those things where, I'm not forcing it. Like even commercial cleaning contracts are difficult for me to get. You know, it's that, you know how you were saying like going from engineering to business, that I feel like that when I'm doing commercial cleaning, but when we're doing declutter, I mean, it's just really just kind of
Easy because
flows.
you know you're gonna get paid, paid by these social services.
You don't find us, we find you.
Yeah. And then, you know, we know who are
I
our
know the
key clients.
Alexandria office too.
Huh?
I know the Department of Aging is really at Alexandria office really.
So yeah, they have so that's kind of our focus.
You can finish your thought. I was wondering, so you mentioned social workers, that you work with. Are they a part of your organization, or is it they usually just come in and help you in those cases?
So the social workers are the ones who are bringing the clients to us. So yeah, but no, we actually have started thinking of, actually started the process of getting life coach classes. Because what we would like to do is like after we do the actual physical cleaning, to give sessions with them afterwards, just to make sure that they can sustain. So one thing that I did take from engineering is there's this thing, it's called 5S, and it's a Japanese workplace methodology. And so a lot of manufacturing companies, it's not just a Nissan thing, but a lot of manufacturing companies, they do this, and so 5S is sort, set in order, shine, sustain, and standardize. And so that's what we do when we go into each of them. We start with sorting and we say, all right, what's keep, donate, throw away. Then we'll come in and then we'll set in order, like, okay, where does this go? Where do we put the toilet tissue? Where do we put this? Where do we put that? We start setting things and making sure everything has its individual assigned place. And then shine is just cleaning, standardize is just making sure like what you've been doing doesn't work for you, you know? So I don't need a trash can in my bedroom, but some people do because they eat in their bedroom, they drink sodas in their bedroom. I don't do anything in my bedroom where I need, a trash can. I'm fine with just having it in the kitchen. So just making sure what works for you, that is it standardized and then sustained. And so that's when we want to come in and we want to continue with sessions. And so we don't do reoccurring cleaning, but if you come through declutter, we'll offer you reoccurring. So yeah, so we won't do just like, people be like, oh, y'all, can we come? We don't. But if you come through declutter, we've already built a relationship with you. We want to make sure that you're set up for success. So we will come out once a month and just, if you want to continue the process.
So I know that you have been very vocal about how there's a lot of like hoarders or even not hoarders, just like having some sort of mental health condition that maybe they're going through and that's why they found themselves in this position. Have you ever had like a repeat home that you
Yes.
had gone back to and just,
The very first one.
yeah,
So a year, almost to the day, that, she passed the first inspection, we were brought back out. So that's when we started thinking about, cause we were doing one and done.
Right.
You know, we were just going in, hitting it, and then leaving. So that's when we actually started offering people like, hey, do you want to continue the service? And then that's when we actually started thinking about the life coach. So she's the reason why we
Yeah.
wanted to. So we're like I say over and over, we're not therapists, but we want to give you tools, and especially since we already know you. Like, we want to give you tools like, you know, hey, you know, we know how, you know, are you sure that you need to keep buying, you know, X, Y, and Z? Did you look in your house and already see if you have X, Y, and Z? And you would even give them checklists, like, you know, keeping up with things on checklists, you know, only buying when you know that you need to buy. We give them calendars, decluttering calendars, you know, to be intentional about cleaning.
proactive.
So yeah, but yeah, so she's the one and only person that when almost a year to the exact date that I first met her, I was brought back out there, and the thing about it is, and that's why I said that the sustain is so critical, because after we passed the inspection, she said, okay, I want y'all to come back in a month. Well, 2 days before that month, oh, well, let's push it out a couple of weeks. Oh, let's push it out. So now when we do the sustain package, it is what it is. This is your date.
Yeah.
And, you know, since we kind of have like a rapport with them, you know, now we're like, hey,
Yeah.
so why do you need to move this appointment? You know, what is going on? We'll move it to 9 o'clock or 1 o'clock, but we coming out there and we're cleaning that house, you know? So yeah, she was, I mean, like I said, she changed my whole life.
Yeah.
You know, I would be somewhere worried about, you know, cleaning this building, you know, if it wasn't for her. But she really, in every interaction I had with her, further let me know, like, what more things we can tweak, or what more things we can kind of, you know, do to help people. Cause, like I said, I mean, I make money, and so I most definitely like to let everybody know this is not a nonprofit at all. But this is probably the most rewarding thing that I've ever done in my whole life. And her interactions with me, like that second interaction, just even gave me even more like fuel on like, hey, like, we just can't do this one touch. Like, we just can't come in and, you know, like how they say, people come in your life for a reason, a season, and a lifetime. You know, we're not just here for, you know, we're here for a reason, but we're not just here for a season. You know, we want to be with you on this journey, and we want to continue to make sure that you are in a healthy home. And because, like I said, I look at myself, and even though I'm you know, people throw out the term OCD, so I'm not even gonna say OCD, but, you know, I'm a very, this needs to be this here, this needs to be here. But I came from a 3-bedroom house, a garage, you know, it was 1,600 square feet, to living in, you know, a little apartment. So, I mean, my space is different. You know, I don't feel as organized as I used to. We're working around the clock, so I don't feel like I'm cleaning like I used to. So I can see that happening to me. So, I mean, you know, I'm not even gonna get on a high horse and say, just because I feel right now, like, no, like right now I feel in disarray, because we're legit working from 6 in the morning. I just dropped, you know, 3 cleaners off before I changed my clothes in one of their bathrooms and came over here, you know, and we're getting up and we're doing it again. We're rolling 7 days a week. So, I mean, it is, you know, I could see, you know, me getting into that, you know, I could see that happening. And so that's the reason why we're really very, very, very passionate about helping, our clients just return back to a healthier, just making sure they're seen, you know, making sure that they're recognized and making sure that they're able to, you know, age in place respectfully, and, you know, cause so many that are not.
So when you came back the second time with that client, was it as bad as when you first came, or was it a little bit
It was
better?
different. It was
It was
different.
different.
Like I said, she touched my heart, but, it was different, you know, and that was the thing that was like really interesting, because it wasn't the same issues, you know, like it wasn't,
But you didn't have the food and the.
oh, that was a whole
anymore?
different person.
Oh, this
Yeah,
was
yeah,
a
yeah, that
different
was
one, okay.
the food was like a whole nother person, but, she really, it was just completely different areas, completely different, concerns, but the same exact, condition where she was facing the same situation.
You know, that kind of makes sense. The way hoarding tends to work is that it builds up, it's kind of like our own psyche. It builds up in one area of itself, and you do a series of things that leads to another series of things, but you're a different you later than you are when you started. So you now have different habits you did because you had a whole pile, but now the piles are gone. So they start over. So now you start from over here, but now you create a whole other system that you think works, but didn't work. That's why you were hoarding. And so it is makes sense how we would have
Yeah,
different
and
problems
and so like I said, it was very
Yeah.
interesting, because when we went in there, it was the same condition but different. And so that was when I was like, I felt this, not guilt, but I kind of felt like, why didn't I, you know, when she was like texting me and like canceling, like, why didn't I call her and say, hey, what's going on? You know, like a part of me felt like, a part of me, and like I said, that's why I said she has a special place in my heart, but a part of me felt like, I had ownership in what had happened. You know, a part of me felt like, why didn't I do more? Like, you know, when she was canceling, why didn't I ask, like, okay, why are you canceling? You know, what is going on? Like, let me check on you. Like, you know, a part of me felt like, cause if she had never wrote that letter, I wouldn't be here right now. You know, so a part of me really felt like she's so much a part of my story. So when I went in there, it just really was like, it took a lot out of me, because I just was like, but after that, you know, that's why, like I said, now we do a whole thing where we offer like, hey, and some of them can't afford it. You know, I mean, to be honest, some of them can't afford it, and even, you know, like we'll do some discounted stuff, you know, we'll say, and some of them just, I mean, you know, they're in, I mean, solo agers are the least financially stable people on earth, you know, I mean, they don't have two incomes, they have one income, you know, that, and so like their even their mental state is different of how they look at financing, you know?
Yeah.
So, she, that one took a lot out of me, but she's back on track now. So, you know, I mean, but like I said, that second go around was what I needed, because we were really thinking like we just needed to just go in, and that was our mentality. Like, we'll go in, change somebody's life, and then run out. And that's not how life is, you know. We were like, you know, we're just gonna transform our lives and then, you know, never see them again, you know, and that's not, you know, how it is. I mean, that's, if this is something that we're truly passionate about, that's not how, you know, we need to be. So it was good that cause like I said, if it was anybody else that I had come back to, I probably would have been like, whatever, but since it was her, I had this feeling of like, why didn't I, you know, do more? Because, you know, what if they had called me back in? What if she got evicted? What if, you know, like all these thoughts came through my head. I was just like, you know, what if she did get evicted? What if the next person, you know, didn't, deal with her the same way we did? And what if she rejected the services? And so all these different things were going through our heads, so. But I appreciate all the interaction.